was supposed to be his last delivery of the night. The driver was exhausted, eyelids heavy after a long shift, already dreaming about going home and collapsing into bed. He'd been working extra hours all week, saving every dollar he could, and this final order felt like the finish line. But when the notification came through, something about it felt off. The address wasn't on GPS, no map showed the street, and the instructions were just a set of vague written directions. For a moment, he thought about rejecting it, telling himself it wasn't worth the trouble. But it was his last delivery, the one that would close out the night, and that small detail convinced him to take it. A decision he would soon regret. The drive out to the address felt wrong from the very beginning. The streets grew emptier with every turn, storefronts giving way to dark, silent neighborhoods where not a single light burned in the windows. His GPS kept glitching, spinning in circles, insisting he was off route, even though he followed the written directions exactly. Once or twice, it even felt like he'd passed the same intersection before, as though the roads were looping back on themselves. Then, just as he was ready to give up, the house appeared. Old, weathered, and sitting in the shadows like it hadn't been touched in years. The windows were dark, the paint peeling, the yard overgrown. And yet, the moment he pulled up, the porch light flickered on by itself, casting a pale glow across the rotting steps. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howled, a long, hollow sound that seemed to echo through the still air. Even the wind had died, leaving the night too quiet, too heavy. As he stared at the house, he could have sworn he saw something shift in the upstairs window, just enough to make his stomach tighten. He climbed the creaking steps, each one groaning under his weight, and stood before the door with the food bag clutched in his hand. For a moment, he just listened. Nothing but silence pressed in around him. Finally, he knocked. The sound echoed too loudly in the stillness, and when no answer came, he started to turn back. That's when the door slowly creaked open on its own. A shadowed figure stood just beyond the threshold, pale and motionless, features blurred by the dim light. The driver froze, heart hammering, as the figure leaned forward and whispered in a voice like dry leaves, "You're late." The words chilled him to the bone. The bag in his hand suddenly felt heavier, dragging against his arm as though it no longer held food at all. He glanced down at the crumpled receipt taped to it, and his stomach dropped. Printed at the top, in bold letters, was his own name. The driver's breath caught in his throat as the figure in the doorway tilted its head, voice scraping through the silence, like broken glass. "We've been waiting," it whispered again, firmer this time, as if the words weren't meant just for him but for something else listening in the dark. From deeper inside the house, he heard faint shuffling, the unmistakable sound of more footsteps. Too many. Shadows stirred against the walls, shifting unnaturally, and hushed whispers rose in a chorus he couldn't quite make out. Panic jolted him into action. He stumbled back, clutching the bag, desperate to flee. But the moment he turned, the door slammed shut behind him with a violent crack, the sound echoing down the empty street. His heart pounded as he darted down the steps, eyes scanning for his car, only to find an empty curb. The spot where he'd parked was bare, as if the vehicle had never been there at all. Heart racing, the driver bolted down the street, not daring to look back at the house or the shadow that had spoken his name. His only thought was escape, finding light, people, anything familiar. But as he sprinted through the darkness, the streets twisted unnaturally, folding into one another until he skidded to a halt, chest heaving. There it was again, the same abandoned house, waiting for him at the end of the block, its porch light still flickering like a dying heartbeat. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket. Hands trembling, he pulled it out. A new order notification glowed across the screen. Same house, same time. Tomorrow. Before he could react, the screen erupted in static, and a distorted whisper slithered through the speaker. "You can't leave." You're late.
So what about you?
If that order came to your phone, would you still make the delivery, or would you quit on the spot and walk away? Let me know your answer in the comments. I'll be reading them in the dark tonight. And if this story gave you chills, don't go too far, because in the next episode, we're diving into another nightmare you won't want to miss. The Forgotten Child. Trust me, this one is even darker.